Marcus Chen wiped grease from his hands as he stepped out of the maintenance bay, expecting another routine inspection of the orbital station's outer hull. What he found instead made him drop his wrench. A massive dragon lay chained to the docking platform, her iridescent scales dulled by neglect. Even curled in defeat, she stretched nearly 40 meters from snout to tail. Her breathing was labored, and Marcus could see the cruel metal restraints had worn raw patches in her hide where she'd struggled against them. "What the hell?" Marcus muttered, approaching cautiously. The dragon's golden eyes tracked his movement, but she didn't lift her great head from the cold metal deck. Station Commander Volkov's voice crackled through his comm. "Chen, stay away from that thing. The Draconic Consortium dropped her off 3 hours ago. Apparently she's some kind of exile. Their problem is now our problem until they figure out what to do with her." Marcus studied the magnificent creature before him. Her breathing was shallow, and he could see infection setting in around the restraints. Whatever crime had earned her banishment, she was suffering now. "Commander, she needs medical attention. Those wounds are going septic." "Not our concern, Chen. The dragons were clear. She's untouchable until they decide her fate. Could be weeks, could be months." Marcus looked into those ancient golden eyes and saw something that made his chest tighten. Recognition, intelligence. And beneath it all, a profound sadness that reminded him of rescue animals he'd helped as a kid back on Earth. "Like hell," he whispered, switching off his comm. The dragon, she had to be female based on the delicate features and smaller head. Crest watched as Marcus grabbed his toolkit and approached. Her massive form tensed as he neared the restraints, but she didn't try to pull away. "Easy there, big girl," Marcus said softly, examining the locking mechanism. "Let's see what we're dealing with." The chains were draconic technology, far more advanced than human engineering. But Marcus had been fixing impossible things his whole life. Every lock had a weakness. Every system had a flaw. It took him 2 hours of careful work, but eventually the restraints clicked open. The dragon stared at him in shock as the heavy chains fell away. She flexed her wings experimentally, wincing as circulation returned to cramped muscles. "There," Marcus said, backing away to give her space. "That's got to feel better." The dragon slowly raised her head, studying this strange human who had freed her without asking for anything in return. When she spoke, her voice resonated through Marcus's chest like distant thunder. "You freed me. Why?" Her galactic standard was flawless, though heavily accented with the melodic tones of her species. "Because nobody deserves to be left chained up like cargo," Marcus replied simply. "I'm Marcus, by the way. I keep this bucket of bolts running." He gestured at the station around them. "I am Aethys Vara of the Crimson Peaks clan, though I suppose I am no longer of any clan." The bitterness in her voice was unmistakable. "What did you do?" Marcus asked, then immediately held up his hands. "Sorry, none of my business." Aethys Vara was quiet for a long moment. "I spoke against the Elders' decision to abandon the alliance with the humans. I said your species showed promise, that you deserved a chance to prove yourselves among the stars." She let out a sound that might have been bitter laughter. "For that, I was branded a traitor and cast out." Marcus felt a surge of anger on her behalf. "So you got exiled for standing up for my people, and now those same people won't even help. You?" "The commander follows protocol, I understand." "Well, I don't give a damn about protocol." Marcus grabbed his portable med kit and cleaning supplies. "You mind if I take a look at those wounds? I'm not a doctor, but I've patched up my share of injuries." For the first time since he'd found her, something like hope flickered in Aethys Vara's eyes. She extended one massive foreleg, exposing the raw flesh where the restraints had rubbed. As Marcus cleaned and treated her wounds, they talked. Ethisvara told him about the beauty of her homeworld, about flying through crystal canyons and sleeping on beds of warm volcanic sand. Marcus shared stories of Earth, of thunderstorms and ocean waves, of cities that sparkled like jewels in the night. 160 years I lived among my clan, Ethisvara said as Marcus applied synthetic skin to her worst injuries. And in those years I never experienced such kindness from a stranger. Maybe that says more about your clan than about humans, Marcus replied, sealing the bandage. Over the following weeks, as bureaucrats argued about Ethisvara's fate, Marcus visited her daily. He brought her food synthesized to draconic dietary requirements, shared his meals when she showed curiosity about human cuisine, and even rigged up a heat lamp to help her regulate her body temperature in the station's controlled environment. More importantly, they became friends. Ethisvara shared the wisdom of her long years, teaching Marcus about stellar navigation, techniques that had taken her people millennia to develop. In return, Marcus showed her human ingenuity, how they solved problems not through ancient knowledge, but through creativity and determination. Your species fascinates me, Ethisvara admitted one evening as they watched ships arrive and depart through the observation deck. You've been spacefaring for barely 2 centuries, yet you adapt to anything. We're good at making the best of bad situations, Marcus agreed. Speaking of which, I've been thinking about your situation. He pulled out a data pad showing immigration forms. There's nothing saying you can't apply for human citizenship. Earth's pretty strict about immigration, but the outer colonies are always looking for skilled individuals. And with your experience in stellar cartography, Ethisvara stared at the forms, then at Marcus. You would sponsor me? Hell, I'd be honored to. Besides, Marcus grinned, I could use a business partner. Chen and Associates Stellar Mechanics has a nice ring to it, don't you think? For the first time in 160 years, Ethisvara laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I think, Marcus Chen, that your species' greatest strength is not your technology or your adaptability. What is it then? Your capacity to see worth in others even when they cannot see it in themselves. 6 months later, as their ship departed for the Kepler colony where they would establish the first human dragon engineering firm in known space, Marcus reflected on a truth that the dragon's ancient wisdom had missed. Sometimes the most profound strength wasn't in following tradition, but in choosing compassion over protocol. And sometimes, the most unlikely partnerships created the most extraordinary possibilities.